My name is Erma Jones Gordon, and I am 62 years of age. I'm a native of Kalamazoo, born and raised. I was raised on the east side of Kalamazoo, and I went to Roosevelt Elementary, and then from Roosevelt Elementary I went to Northeastern Junior High, and from junior high school I went to Kalamazoo Central High School. My parents, my mother is still living. She's 86 years of age. My father's deceased, and he died in 1983. I have two brothers still living, and three sisters still living, and most of them reside here in Kalamazoo. My parents are Joe and Annie Jones, and my father, Joe Jones, is deceased. My father was a builder, and he did a lot of concrete brick laying and building different projects and construction. My father, again, had about an 8th grade education, because during those days most of the individuals that came from the South picked cotton and worked in the fields. But my father's parents always had this business sense. My grandfather wore a bow tie, a white shirt and a black bow tie. So when my father migrated here and we came to the east side, he moved into his father's home, which is very small. We lived on Hotop Street, and some of you probably will be able to identify with Hotop. And we lived at 909 Hotop at the time. And my father built a house around a house and tore a house down. And we kept right on living. Our home was like a 22-bedroom home. The families from the South that were related to us migrated from the South and came to us, a lot of them, and they stayed until they could get their selves together and get their own places. And during those days, families were very, very close. When we hear that thing about it takes a village to raise a child, the village was there for us. During our childhood, we again had so much respect. Our parents taught us respect. We had this understanding that everybody was our mom and dad, so we respected them in that fashion. My brother, my oldest brother, who's deceased now, Early Lee Boyd, he was a singer. He loved music, and so in the neighborhood they started a band, and they called themselves the Daps. And so they would sing and go places, and Cliff Pulley Sr. would take them and book bands, and they had this one person, Big Ollie, who used to have a barbershop, and they were all over booking bands and singing and doing all kinds of neat things. And so my father, he decided he would build a nightclub, and because again I said he was a builder, he was an entrepreneur. So he had some property out in Comstock. And I never forget it, when we got home in the evening times, because my father and them had work ethics. And you better believe one thing, everybody worked. It was early to bed, early to rise. And nothing comes to a sleeper but a dream. And they don't happen too often if you don't make them happen. So that was our philosophy. And so he had this dream of building my brother a nightclub so that they could become famous. So he had this property in Comstock, and he began to build it. My dad would put us in that old truck and take us out to Comstock for work. And I can remember my sister Linda, who was Linda McIntosh now, and my brothers also, when we got out there, they would be doing laying bricks and stuff, and we'd be towing bricks, and my sister and I would get one on one corner, she'd have the brick, and I had the other, and we'd wall it over to wherever they wanted it at. We swept floors, we wiped down stuff, we cleaned up everything until it got ready. And this one particular evening, I never will forget. We pulled out of the drive of the club, and I was the one that always would tell my dad everything. So I said, and we were in the back of the truck. You know, in them days, kids rode in backs of trucks. You know, they didn't have no top on. It wasn't any worry about nobody falling or anything. It wasn't like that. But anyway, I hollered at him. I said, "Daddy, somebody just pulled up in our driveway." He said, "Oh, don't worry about that." He said, "They just probably turning around." I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "But I ain't seen them come out, Daddy." And so anyway, by the time we reached home, we lived on Hotop Street, and Comstock was not that far from us from where we lived on the east side of town. and the phone was ringing. We were the first one to have a phone that I can remember, and the first one to have a TV. And those were big items during those days. You can believe that. It was like, oh, like, you know, we didn't know about being rich or poor. We were rich. So, but anyway, my dad picked up the phone, and you could just see the whole expression on his face. Just, I mean, it's like he just turned different color. And the call he had was that his place had been burned down. And you try to figure out, how do you burn brick? And I never will forget when we went back out there, it was like ashes and stuff. I mean, there was nothing left.